snap it, and it's Trey Burton who throws caught. Bulls touchdown.
Here he goes. It's Hester inside the 30. Hester's going to take it all the way for a touchdown.
Fields stumbling, trying to cut it back. Justin Fields making magic happen. There goes Fields. Touchdown.
Hurts on first down, fires downfield. It's Deshaun Jackson back in the lineup. It's the last 7 games, and he will take it 81 yards. A somersault into the end zone. His first touchdown of the season.
You're listening to the Pigskin Project, the world's #1 football podcast. Now, with more insights on all things football, here are your hosts, Ben Hansen and Ryan Matthews. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Pigskin Project, where we are back from a little bit of a break. We apologize for that, by the way. But we're starting a little bit earlier to kind of make up for it.
Yes.
For those of you that are watching on my Twitter, I appreciate it because, as you guys know, we can't live stream from our,
main account.
Our main account anymore. But we've got a good one in store for you. So obviously we're doing Eagles, Commanders, Steelers, and Bengals in that order later on tonight, right after we talk about all the big weekly news that's been going on recently. Just stay tuned. We've got a lot planned for the next 4 weeks. I mean, we've got less than a month before it's officially game week.
Wow.
It's going to be awesome. I hope everybody has been entertained by all the preseason stuff.
Yes.
Preseason football has been awesome. Hard Knocks, by the way, amazing so far.
I have my take on Hard Knocks.
Let's do it right now. Yeah, let's talk about Hard Knocks.
Not
just
to
a little
cut
bit.
you off there. Hard Knocks being delayed was earth-shattering for me, all right? I planned my night around Hard Knocks being released 9 o'clock on Tuesday, and when you're an hour and a half late, it ruins it because I'm coming off of a hard day at work, and then now I have to wait another hour and a half, and I wasn't able to finish it in one sitting because I fell asleep. That's besides the point. I'll tell you, you're not going to like this. Hard Knocks this year, for me, it's fun because obviously I have the connection with the Bears. But outside, like if you're not a Bears fan, I don't think this is as much of a fun Hard Knocks to watch as last year, the year before, because there's just not really any like overarching storylines outside of Caleb Williams. And Caleb Williams is fun, and obviously everyone likes it. But outside of like being a Bears fan, there's not the overarching like fun storylines that they've had in the past. And given it's only been 2 episodes and there's still 3 or 4 that still need to come out, but it's not been as fun compared to the last 2 seasons with the Giants and Lions. I don't know what it is, but I do like watching Caleb a lot, and I look forward to that. But I'm a little disappointed with Hard Knocks this year.
I obviously am going to disagree.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I wouldn't expect anything less.
Hey, look at this. A change in pace for sure. Kyle coming on saying the Bears are making the playoffs. That's huge. Hey, little bit of a sneak peek, by the way. You're going to hear more takes from that guy within the coming weeks. Very excited for that. Much respect to Kyle for doing that. That's really cool.
It's one of the first Packers fans.
So I've seen a lot of Packers fans, I guess, on Twitter. But he said, I'm not biased. Packers fans, no ball. Hey, tell Ben that. Anyways, so nonetheless.
Hey, whoa. I didn't say the Bears are not going to not make the playoffs. I'm saying they're fighting for
We
a
had
spot.
a drink bet on it.
Yeah, the Packers are definitely going to be better. Yeah, that's a drink bet.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it when the Bears come. I think I'll tell you this as a teaser. The Bears are going to be a borderline playoff team. I'm riding the fence. Maybe I think they're going to be one of the teams fighting for the 7th seed, and that's where I'll leave it until the Bears.
So let me just tell people we've got a couple weeks before we fully go forward with the Bears bias and whatnot. So
2 weeks.
It's going to be great. But nonetheless, let me say my Hard Knocks piece. I guess I can kind of understand where you're coming from. I think there's a couple factors that go into that. So that being the fact that we cover football year round. So we already know everything that's going on with the Bears, especially because of me, and how much I am a psychotic Bears fan. But because God knows if anything happens with the Bears, I'm gonna let you know. Like I'll probably be one of the first people to tell you. But anyways, storyline aside, they're starting to kind of build them up a little bit. Obviously, the first episode was kind of to hype it up a little bit more and then follow what normally Hard Knocks follows, right? Yes. And now it's starting to kind of build the characters up a little bit as we're getting towards the halfway point of Hard Knocks, I would assume, because it's only 5 episodes, I believe. So, with that, you've
rooting
got
for Ian Wheeler, by the way.
Exactly.
I'm rooting for Ian Wheeler.
You've got Ian Wheeler that's hoping to make the team. Seems to be a fun character. DJ Moore's got a personality now. That's pretty cool. That's like one of the biggest things that Bears fans are talking about. Him getting up and yelling, "I love football!" Like,
I thought that was funny.
What a dude! Yeah. And then obviously, you've got Caleb, but I mean, one guy that I'm hoping, because if you're not paying attention, he's gonna go right under the radar. Like I'm telling you, like nobody's going to be, it's going to go right over your head. Austin Booker is having a fantastic preseason. Yeah. I remember, I hope we talked about it on the podcast because I know we talked about it around scouting combine time, and up into the draft as well. Austin Booker was a draft crush of mine. He was one of my guys. I look back, he wasn't one of my guys coming into the stream when we did do my guys with Matt during this offseason, but he was one of the my guys that we had talked about. I hope to God we talked about on the show. But he has been a monster. I believe at the Bills game they called him a poor man's Max Crosby. Yes. Which makes sense if you look at it in a way, because the Bears have the Raiders D-line coach from when Max Crosby was brought up. I am in no way, shape, or form saying that Austin Booker should be a starter day one. But what I will say is, like, for a rookie that we gave up, I want to say a 5th to trade up back to the 4th or vice versa, something. Yeah. He is developing very well, and it gives Bears fans a lot to be excited for, because what Chicago football is hard-hitting defense. It's going to be a lot of fun. But now you've got this more brand new version of Bears football with Caleb Williams throwing and running the way that he does. The flip play that everybody wants to talk about, which, by the way, I promise you that's a drawn up play. For some reason, I'm convinced.
No, that was not a drawn. I think it was drawn up that like he was getting the ball to Swift.
That's what I'm saying.
Drawn up that. Okay, yeah, it wasn't drawn up that he like tosses it like behind his back and everything.
No. It was supposed to be a running back screen play. That's how I look at it. And no matter who you watch in film studies on YouTube, they don't want to talk about how that play is probably supposed to be that way. They want to talk about the improv work from Caleb, since I can't speak. So it was impressive. Don't get me wrong. It was a flashy pass, but when you realize that he's got 3 blockers that are O linemen that are following him up the field, or leading him, I guess, because those are 2 different things. That just doesn't happen by coincidence. So, I cannot stress that enough. That is totally a design play, but it was cool. Don't get me wrong.
Yes, it was very cool.
So it's got a modern touch to it. And another thing, as we get into weekly news, is that the Bears were super big on an edge rusher recently. The Patriots have traded Matthew Judon to the Falcons. The Bears have they had a heavy interest, and honestly, I've read multiple reports confirming that the Bears were the first team, I guess the second place team for Judon, because they offered the same thing. It was a 3rd-round pick, but the Patriots thought that the Falcons pick would be a better pick compared to the Bears, which is also an interesting fact. So I'm just saying that's why Judon is a Falcon now, according to reports. But it's going to be interesting because the Bears are active in the trade market looking to fill that other edge spot. And it seems like Poles is trying to win now. And that's why I'm excited about Hard Knocks in the upcoming season. But
yes,
back to Matthew Judon. Falcons are looking good. I'm going to throw in one more headline just to kind of go into it and group it together because Justin Simmons signed with the Falcons today as well. Just a huge defensive push from the Falcons, which, by the way, Justin Simmons should have been signed months ago. But it's just a great upgrade at 2 positions that are crucial for the Falcons in just the nick of time as well.
Yes,
now that I'm done on my rant, there you go.
They did sadly lose Braylon Trice in the preseason game to a torn ACL. He was the rookie they drafted there in the 3rd round, which I don't think it's quite a coincidence that they lose him. And then a couple days later, they trade for Judon. I will say this, Judon went for more than I thought. I'm surprised Judon went for more than what Hassan Reddick went for. Hassan Reddick went for a 4th and Judon went for a 3rd. And let's be honest here, guys. Now, unless you're unbiased, Hassan Reddick is the better player. This is coming from someone who's like, Hassan Reddick isn't even on my team anymore. That being said, he had just recently requested a trade out of the Jets, which is funny because he just got traded there not 2 months ago. So if the Bears are in the trade market, Hassan Reddick might not be a bad piece to go after. You go and get your other edge there. Given you have to give him a new contract. That was the big hiccup there going on with the Jets. He wants a new contract. Jets don't really want to give it to him. And that's why they traded for him and then might even end up trading him away now here soon. But if you're the Bears fan, I mean, a realistic piece could be Hassan Reddick. And the one thing we have consistently said on this podcast was that is the missing piece on the defense was having other defensive linemen outside of Sweat. And now if you can get Hassan Reddick and Sweat next to each other, that is one scary defensive line. But as for the Falcons, I think they gave up a little much for him, but a good piece. They're trying to make a push. Like you said, the Justin Simmons signing was great. It was really down between them and the Saints. And it seems like the Falcons probably offered more, or maybe he feels like he has a better chance of winning now with the Falcons than he did with the Saints. But yeah, two really good ads for them there.
It's going to be a lot of fun to see that Falcons team in action with all the changes and everything that happened this offseason. That's another team that has a lot to look forward to. So if you're a Falcons fan, congratulations, man. But to our buddy Matt, I apologize, buddy. That really sucks. Anyways, next up, speaking of teams that are really, I guess people that are really going through it, Vikings fans are having a heck of a stretch, man. They're having just as good of a stretch as you are with fantasy running backs. JJ McCarthy's out for the season with torn meniscus. I got to start my fantasy trash talk sometime, right? JJ McCarthy's out for the season with a torn meniscus. So normally this isn't something I would expect to be out for the season, but this is something to where they're wanting to repair and do a full repair and rehab and everything for him to make sure he's good for the long term. So he's kind of investing in himself at this point, and the doctors are making a good decision as well, as he is still a young dude that can still play. It is unfortunate. You don't want to see a rookie go down like this, but it is what it is at this point. You have to prioritize your health over anything else at this point, especially at this level. And then on top of that, Jordan Addison, another young player, a star for the Vikings, had to be carted off the field yesterday. However, it is not expected that he will miss an extended amount of time. So, it's not as bad as it could have been. They said that he avoided a very big ankle injury, but it could have been worse for the Vikings. But honestly, it's just been crazy. They had a corner, I forget, Andrew Booth, right? Or no, they traded Booth. I'm trying to think. They had a starting corner tear his ACL. There was somebody else that said, oh man, like this guy's next up, and then that guy got hurt. Like Vikings just can't catch a break right now. It's been horrible. But,
hold on here, guys. I'm sorry. My headphones are being wonky, and I had just missed out on like the last 30 seconds of things that Ryan had said. While I'm trying to reconnect my headphones here, no, in terms of the Jayden or the JJ McCarthy situation, there we are. We're back. It really came down to if you wanted to do a repair, something that for other sports fans that follow the basketball, for example, that like Joel Embiid did, you do a trim, you get it fixed. It's a 2-3 month recovery. You come back, or you do the full repair like Ryan had said, and that's what they ended up doing, and you're just going to be out for the rest of the season. And to be frank, that was the smart decision to do, was the full repair. The plan was not for him to start anyways, and if he, either way he was going to sit out, he was not going to be able to work on his footwork, his drop backs, and all that different stuff while he was recovering anyways. And like you said, this way you don't jeopardize his long-term health, and you can still continue to move towards a development plan. You just push it back a half a season. Instead of him coming in week 10, he just starts next year.
It'll be interesting to see him next year. It's just unfortunate for Vikings fans to have to wait until then. Next up, Tavon Austin is retiring from the NFL.
The highlight tape. Yeah, so did I. But that highlight tape is unreal. I mean, if you grew up around the time that we did, you watched that highlight tape, and that was what started it all. Everyone saw how good he was in West Virginia there with Geno, and you were like, holy moly, there's no way this guy is an NFL star. He, of course, never was, but good for him. And another legend retired this week, or 2 weeks ago now at this point, Nick Foles. Good for him. I thought he had already retired as well, but here we are. We two legends retired this week. So
yeah. Oh yes, thank you for noting that too. Just because I completely forgot about Foles, Bears legend Nick Foles, and then he did something for the Eagles. I think. Yeah, I don't know. Something. Anyways, next up, huge. If you are game planning for fantasy, because this is a guy. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I was thinking about taking him as well. Obviously, we haven't done our fantasy draft yet. You guys will probably hear updates about that as we go on. But Hollywood Brown's expected to miss 4 to 6 weeks due to a shoulder injury. That was like a sneaky addition by the Chiefs that flew under the radar for sure, just because it's that guy would be good matched up with Mahomes. He's got speed, and it looks like that's really what they're trying to push for in Kansas City as well. After getting Xavier Worthy as well. I saw him get bodied in preseason.
In the press. Yes.
But that's one thing. But if you can make Juju Smith-Schuster look good, the guy that got cut by the Patriots, by the way, recently, if you can make him look good, man, Hollywood Brown would be huge for them. So just maybe keep him on the waiver wire, I would say, for right now, if you're game planning fantasy drafts.
And if you're a Chiefs fan at this point, you're hoping and praying that they're pushing back the Rashid Rice suspension to next year. Because if you're going to be – and that's what it sounds like, yeah. But if you're out him for the first 5-6 weeks – oh, sorry there, guys. If you're out him for the first 6 weeks, and then you add on top of the Hollywood Brown stuff, that's then when it gets super interesting, because now you really do have to just hope and pray that Worthy is somewhat serviceable within his first few games as rookie, in which we've already talked about in the podcast. It's hard to do. So but yes, hopefully he gets speedy recovery and comes back fully healthy.
Absolutely. And then finally, and let me preface this. After this, we are done saying stuff on this. No more updates, anything like that on the Pigskin Project about this headline, because we are sick of it. I believe everybody else is as well. Until there is a deal done, whether it's a trade or an extension, we will not
be saying anything else from this point forward. So take it in. Steelers and 49ers reportedly have a deal in place for Ayuk to go to Pittsburgh. However, there's an extension on the table still from San Francisco that Ayuk is mulling over. Reports are also saying that San Francisco is kind of mulling over their options before officially pulling the trigger on anything as well. And since then, Ayuk has returned to practice in full gear despite not having signed anything officially. So just kind of be aware of this situation. Keep up to date on it on Twitter. And once the news breaks, you already know the first Pigskin Project episode that comes out will be like sounding the alarms. Guys, you won't believe what happened. Oh my gosh, a blockbuster trade that came out of nowhere. Or an extension that's just like, okay. Like
my final piece that I'll put on it until something does come out, like you were saying. I really, again, I think there's this deal in place, and the Steelers are offering him more money than what the Niners are. And it's a matter of if the Niners are willing to match whatever the Steelers are offering him or not. Because if the Niners are saying, hey, we'll match it, then of course he's just going to stay there. And then on Ayuk's side, it's how far apart are they? Because if they're $1 million off a year, Ayuk's probably going to stay. He's in a better situation there, playing with a better quarterback, playing with better coaches, in a better system, on a better team. But yeah, it's probably just a matter of the Niners saw what the Steelers' contract was, and now they have to make a decision whether or not they want to match that contract and offer that same contract or something close to it, or if they want to take the first-round pick and Roman Wilson or whatever the trade is. The compensation hasn't yet been reported, but I'd imagine it'd be like a first and a third and then some kind of depth wide receiver.
Yeah. So, all right. Without further ado, I think we're done with the Ayuk stuff for a little bit.
Please.
Let's into like the main meat and bones of this episode.
You think you know football? Well, prove it. This is Pigskin Pick'em.
Let's go. What are we thinking? Eagles first.
Eagles first, guys. This is going to be probably the team that takes the longest because Ryan seems to purposely be getting underneath my skin here, as he likes to do here, because I'm not on the Bears train, as for good reason. But Ryan's a little frustrated with that, so he wants to cause some frustration in my life here. We'll go through the Eagles prediction. I will do my schedule. Ryan will do his, and then we can talk about as to why we are as far apart as I think. Maybe you'll surprise me, and maybe it won't be as bad as I think. But we'll see. So week 1, they open up in Brazil against the Packers. They're going to lose. And Eagles fans are going to be like, the sky is falling with the way last year it ended. We play a good team and we lose in week 1, and it's going to be bad. Already people are going to be like, oh, Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts, how good is their relationship? And all that BS is going to start coming up again after the first week 1. But the team is going to stay calm because that's who they are, despite what the media wants to tell you. And then they're going to win the next 3 games going into their bye week in week 5. So they're going to beat the Falcons, they're going to beat the Saints, and they're going to beat the Bucs. So now they start off the season 3-1. They have an awful bye week in week 5.
I was going to say that's awful. I didn't even say that. I see that.
Yes, it is awful. I hate that it's a week 5 bye week. Like I've always been a proponent of the double bye, and a situation like this, makes me want it even more. I mean, I've said it again before we got the week 5 bye, but this is bad. It's bad. They come off the bye week well rested. They play the Browns. They lose to the Browns, and everyone's like, "We're gonna do this again." It's all right. So now we're 3-2. Then we play the Giants. We beat the Giants. That is in New York, or I guess New Jersey. But they beat them. No shock there. Then they played the Bengals, another good team on their schedule, and they lose. And now they're 4-3, and the sky is absolutely falling. They play the Jags. They beat the Jags. They play the Cowboys, as I do in every week, and I'll continue to say it every week. Two teams in the same division that are equally matched, they'll split. Home team gets the win. So they will lose to the Cowboys. Now they play the Commanders. Eagles win. They play the Rams. Eagles win. Play the Ravens at Baltimore. They're going to lose. And now they win out the rest of the season. They close it out really, really nicely. The last 5 games, really the only tough team they play there is the Cowboys. They go into the playoffs with momentum. They beat the Panthers. They beat the Steelers, beat the Commanders, beat the Cowboys, and beat the Giants. And despite those losses that I've said, they finished the season at 12-5, and Hurts looks good. Saquon looks good. He was able to stay healthy behind a good offensive line. Of course, AJ and Devontae look great. The young stars, one of Cooper DeJean or Quinyon Mitchell will look good. I'm realistic here. Not both of them are going to be these all-world talents or something. We're going to go in, probably be the second seed there in the NFC. And everything is going to be all white in the world, and we can shut up and stop having to talk about whether Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts hate each other, because they're 12-5, and Jalen Hurts is going to get MVP votes. So,
Eagles start off against the Packers in Brazil. In this situation, for me, they'll lose. You'll be surprised. Yep. This is crazy. You guys should know we don't talk about our predictions at all going into this.
Yes, I just know how Ryan feels about the Eagles, guys. That's why I had prefaced that, because let's say me and Ryan I got into a heated discussion with Ryan about the Eagles probably 3 weeks ago now at this point, which feels forever. But
the first 10 weeks, I matched everything that you did.
Ha!
Everything.
So wait, what is that?
Lose to the Packers, beat the Falcons, beat the Saints, beat the Bucks, lose to the Browns, beat the Giants, lose to the Bengals, beat the Jaguars, lose to the Cowboys, beat the Commanders. I have them losing to the Rams, losing to the Ravens, beating the Panthers, losing to the Steelers, losing to the Commanders, losing to the Cowboys, so getting swept by the Cowboys this year, and then beating the Giants, ending their season 8-9.
Yeah, I expected a below 500 prediction for you. I think you're absolutely wild for that, but that's besides the point.
I'm just saying, so going through, I'll skip the first 10 weeks just because we're in agreement with that. I do not like the Eagles secondary and how they look right now. In the Rams right now, I mean, that's our first disagreement on the schedule.
Which is funny because we had talked about the Rams versus the Bears, and you're supremely confident that the Bears are going to beat the Rams. But
yes, still
that's beside, which is baffling. But let's continue.
With that, I'll take the Bears defense over the Eagles any day. But with the Rams, I expect them, Matt Stafford. I mean, you're playing in Los Angeles. So I know it's a controlled environment, but, this will be one of those games as well that it's just going to come up short. I'm really excited for that matchup because
mind you, the Eagles beat the Rams last year. I just want to throw that. I'm pretty sure that was in LA last year too. Let me look that up for you here. I think it was a close game.
23-14. You beat them by 9. Okay.
Yeah. That was and that was in LA last year. So, but I just wanted to throw that out there. Yeah. And the Eagles look like a better team than they were last year. Besides the point.
Yeah, even more of a reason for the Rams to come out angry that they lost. So they'll come back and win. Our next disagreement was the Steelers. You'll find out that I am very much higher than you, more than likely, on the Steelers this year.
Yes,
and it's not just because I don't care who starts a quarterback. Like, obviously, as a Bears fan, I do because I want a higher pick for Fields, but that does not change my prediction whatsoever on their record and what I think they'll do. And we'll get to that after the Commanders. But when it comes to the Steelers, their defense, I am a fan of. Patrick Queen, I know that. I think I've talked to you and Matt about it, and I don't think either one of you guys are really big on Patrick Queen. But I'm huge on him, and I think that's going to be an absolute monster for that defense to add. So Matt coming on saying hi on the Steelers, must be a big Arthur Smith guy. Oh, absolutely.
That's kind of what baffles me. Like that, and we'll get into the Steelers a little bit later on, but really outside of Minka and TJ, that defense doesn't have. I mean, Cam Hayward, but he's old as dirt now at this point. And then for you like Patrick Queen, so I'll give you Patrick Queen. But outside of that, there's not really anyone like that. There's no one really on that secondary outside of Minka that I said TJ.
Oh,
I said outside of Minka and TJ.
I do expect Porter to take a jump this year. So next up as well, we're about to talk about the Commanders. So I'll just kind of keep my prediction there. And then Cowboys, they're a regular season team. It just is what it is. I'm just going to leave it at that. They're they're going to slice and dice, and then they'll beat the Giants. They'll sweep the Giants. That's easy. We agree on that too, because the Giants are
Which is
booty.
funny because I think the
Giants
are a better team. I did not. I think the Giants are a better team than the Commanders.
Okay. All right, let's start off with Commanders takes. Huh?
Yeah, we can go into Commanders. So yeah, as you guys can tell, me and Ryan do not agree on the Eagles. For some reason, Ryan would like you to believe that Justin Fields and Jalen Hurts are the same quarterback. He would like you to believe that Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts absolutely despise each other, and that
I never said that.
I
will say, however, Sirianni will be fired by the end of that year, or this upcoming year. If my predictions go great. Yeah,
I mean, if your prediction is right, he should be fired. Yeah. I don't have like a doubt about that. And this was a conversation in which I had with y'all way before we had this conversation, and I'm reluctant to have this conversation because it's a what if conversation for me. And I'm scared that if I ask you this question, because I never got a response from either you or Matt from this, and I'm worried that if I ask you this question, you're gonna turn around and use it against me here. But let's say that the Eagles continue to do well. Let's say the Eagles go, let's say split the difference between me and you. They go 10-7 right now. I would consider that a good record. Jalen Hurts is somewhere between what he looked like last year and his MVP runner-up year. He looks like a decent quarterback. Let's say they look okay, but this relationship between Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts it just continues to deteriorate and gets bad and gets awful. And I don't think we have seen this before, but if Hurts looks good in the Kellen Moore offense, but that relationship between Sirianni and Jalen deteriorates, I would be okay firing Nick and just firing Nick and saying, Kellen Moore, here are the keys to the system. You're the head coach. I've always been higher on Kellen Moore than what the public is. Like, this is way before even he was like the Eagles OC. Yeah, this is even before this. So I don't want people to think it's just because he's an Eagle here.
No,
but like
the comment on the screen.
I didn't see the comment. Sorry.
If the Eagles don't win a playoff game, the coach is gone. Period. Yes. Plain and simple. Absolutely.
Again, I think it really depends on the way in which the season has like goes. Like, I think if they are absolutely dominant in the playoffs, or they're absolutely dominant in the regular season, they get the first seed, they turn around and they get in the divisional round, and they play, let's say, a really close game against, I don't know, let's say the Cowboys, for example, assuming, again, the Eagles are the 1 seed, and you play this really, really close game against the Cowboys, and you lose on a last-second field goal, Nick Sirianni does not deserve to be fired if you're absolutely dominant through the entire process and you play a good game and you lose on a last-second field goal. So having these overarching scenarios for anyone, Eagles-related or not Eagles-related, I think is bad. But the general rule, if the Eagles look bad, I mean, he should be fired. You're talking to some dude who wanted him fired last year. So, let's not get that twisted. my I still am not a Nick Sirianni guy. I did not like Nick Sirianni, and my hope comes from Kellen Moore, who I'm always been a fan of, and Jalen Hurts and the rest of the team. I think Nick Sirianni is no better of a head coach than what me and you are. He doesn't really do anything. He doesn't call plays. He doesn't, he doesn't do anything outside of telling the guys good job. So I'm okay with firing Nick. I want that to get like as high as I am on the Eagles. I think Nick Sirianni is just like a schmuck. Like I would be okay with them firing him. So I have them. I have them 12-6, but we can move on because Lord knows we could talk about this all day. One last question for you here, and I'm just interested in. I don't know why I'm asking the question because I know the answer to what the question is. If the Eagles and Bears played each other, say week 5, with a mostly fully roster outside of like the big guys getting hurt, so like outside of like DJ and Caleb getting hurt or like Hurts and AJ getting hurt, if the Eagles played each other with Caleb having time under his belt, so again, let's say week 5, week 6, and injuries taken out of it, would you pick the Bears to win?
Eagles by 3.
Wow. That's surprising. I 100% expect you to be like, nope, the Bears won.
It's going to be way closer than you probably expected, but
I don't think so. I think this is the disconnect here. I think and we'll get to it when we talk about the Bears. I think that you're under the impression I think the Bears are a bad team.
I'm under the impression that
I think the Bears have a top 10 defense and some fun pieces on the offense that can grow into something. I'm under the impression that you don't understand
how good this team is, and that right now you're just strictly going under the rookie quarterback thing and the stereotype that goes about it because, like, yes, commonly, I don't know, saving it later. It's fine.
We'll save it for. We'll save it for.
We got to talk about another rookie quarterback here in the Commanders. This guy, I'm very excited for. I'm going to start us off with this one. I let you take the reins with your Eagles because this is going to be fun for you to see my prediction.
Oh, I'm sure.
They're taking week 1 against the Bucks, week 2 against the Giants, week 3 against the Bengals, and then week 4 against the Cardinals. Commanders starting 4-0. Then they'll lose against the Browns. Yeah.
Wow.
They'll lose against the Browns, lose against the Ravens, beat the Panthers, lose against the Bears, beat the Giants, lose against the Steelers, lose against the Eagles, lose against the Cowboys, lose against the Titans, and then they'll beat the Saints, beat the Eagles, beat the Falcons, lose against the Cowboys. Commies finished 9-8.
So you have them finishing above the Eagles?
Yes.
Wow, that's wild. I
easier schedule.
Would love, not by much.
Not by too much, but no. They're not winning by too much. Yeah.
Well, I know, but I think the talent disparity is significantly different. There's outside of the defensive line, there's not a single area on that Commanders team that is better than the Eagles. They maybe the secondary, but they don't have a good secondary in their own right. So, like, it's not like they have this lockdown secondary. Their offensive line is worse. Their running back room is worse. Their quarterback room is worse. Their wide receiver room is worse. Their defensive line, they have a good defensive line. They don't want to underplay that. Their linebacker room is middle of the pack. Let's say with the Eagles, it's not a good defense or like linebacker room. And given they have Bobby Wagner, but he's old as dirt now, I don't even know what he's going to look like. And their secondary is nothing to write home about either. I think that's wild. So you have high hopes for Jayden Daniels then?
I do. I'm very excited for him. I think that those are like the first 4 weeks are really good for a rookie quarterback to start against because they're, besides the Giants, obviously, but they're good teams, but they're not Super Bowl contenders and they're not NFC or AFC contenders, in my opinion. But they are playoff teams to test you, but they're not going to break you, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I don't want to dwell too much. We're kind of burning a lot of time here, and but anyway.
Yeah, and we can run it. We can run through it really quickly. I want to ask you this question then, since we're talking about Jayden, and we had already previously touched Caleb on this episode. Of the 4 guys taken in the first round that will get probably significantly, or like at least majority playing time this year. In Caleb, Daniels, May, and Bo. How would you rank those guys come the end of the season in order of best to worst? Because if you're asking me, I think it goes Caleb 1, Bo 2, Jayden 3, May 4. And Jayden for me, by the way, is not like I'm not saying Jayden is going to be worse throughout his entire career. The only reason I have Bo at 2 is because Bo has never been a dude to make risky. Well, he looked good, but he's never been a dude to make risky decisions, and he plays under Sean Payton. So I don't think Bo's going to have the super high ceiling in the NFL. I had always said this, but I don't think he's going to really put his team in a bad position at all throughout the season just because he's smart with the ball and doesn't do anything stupid. So that's why I have him at 2.
It's Caleb 1, Jayden 2, Bo 3, May 4 for me. Okay. I do appreciate the fact that you are putting Caleb at 1. That's fun for me.
Of course. I'm not low on Caleb Williams. I like Caleb Williams.
Then why are we losing week 1? Anyways. I'm just saying that's been a gripe since like the first schedule prediction. But anyways, so
week 1 against the
you
Bucs.
Got to give it up. Yeah. Anyway,
it won't. You won't stop quitting here. Week 1 against the Bucs. Bucs are going to win. Week 2 against the Giants. The Commanders get their first win. Not many for them this season. They lose to the Bengals. They lose to the Cardinals. They lose to the Browns, and they lose to the Ravens. They lose 5 straight. It's not looking good for them. They're 1-5 now at this point. They play the Panthers. They'll beat the Panthers. I'll give them that. They play the Bears. The Commanders win. I'm kidding. The Commanders beat the Bears. No, the Bears win.
I'd expect it at this point, but anyway.
The Bears win this one. They lose to the Giants. They play the Steelers, and they pick up their 3rd victory of this season against the Steelers. If that doesn't tell you guys how I feel about the Steelers here in a minute, you guys will hear that. Eagles win, Cowboys win. They play the Titans, the Commanders win. They play the Saints, and the Commanders win, and then they lose out the rest of the season against the Eagles, Falcons, and Cowboys, putting their overall record at 5-12. Again, as to be expected with their roster and a rookie QB and a guy like Dan Quinn that I'm not overly excited about.
I got to say this because I made the note before we started the podcast. This was the team that I had told you. We ad-lib it, but I told him before the podcast, I was like, I like the range of this. I think 7-9 wins is reasonable for this team. I just like to make you mad, so I put wild. 9. But anyways.
Yeah, I think 9. I think 7 is probably. I think 7 at max is their most. Outside of Terry, outside of Terry, there's no one on the offense I'm excited. I mean, obviously Jayden, but like in terms of weapons for him, outside of Terry, there's no ones I'm overly excited about. And in the same vein, I think Terry's a little bit overrated, and I think the 3 of us have probably agreed on that at this point. Yeah. And again, as we've talked about, their defense isn't very, inspiring. Not that they're bad, but they're not very good. So a switch would have to happen. And I think that switch is more likely to happen in the defense than it is the offense for them to even get to 7 wins, in my opinion. But we'll see. It's the NFL, and we never know any given week.
And to answer this question before we move on, Jayden Rookie of the Year then? No.
If they go 9 wins, he might.
No. Caleb's taking the Bears to the playoffs, so that's better. That's more
Caleb's
impressive. Record,
if they have 9, if the Commanders have 9 wins, that's going to be right around the record the Bears are going to have.
No, the Bears are finishing with 11. Steelers.
No way.
Steelers.
No way.
We've got 2 more teams. All right, let's speed run the Steelers and Bengals.
Yes.
So I've got them losing against the Falcons, winning 3 straight against the Broncos, Chargers, and Colts, losing to the Cowboys, beating the Raiders, losing against the Jets, beating the Giants and Commanders, losing to the Ravens and Browns, beating the Bengals, Browns, Eagles, losing to the Ravens, losing to the Chiefs, beating the Bengals, 10-7. Mike Tomlin does it again.
That's wild. No, I don't have them. As I had told you, I have them finishing with the same record there as the Commanders do. I'm not super high. The Colts thing is definitely out of spite. I can feel it. Anyways, week 1 against the Falcons, they lose. Week 2 against the Broncos, they win. Week 3 against the Chargers, they win. Week 4 against the Colts, they lose. Week 5 against the Cowboys, they lose. They lose to the Raiders. They beat the Raiders. Lose to the Jets, beat the Giants, lose to the Commanders, lose to the Ravens, lose to the Browns, lose to the Bengals. Then they beat the Browns the second time around at home. Good for them. Lose to the Eagles, lose to the Ravens, lose to the Chiefs, lose to the Bengals, putting them at 5-12, same exact record. Again, I am not at all out. They have 2 really good pieces there on their defense. Outside of that, it's guys that don't impress me or guys that were once really good and are aging now at this point. And you have Pickens and 2 running backs, but there's not much there. Now, if they trade for Brandon Ayuk and can still keep Pickens, then that's a different conversation. We can, then we can talk about them going above 500. But until then, they're not a bad team. They're not a good team. There's nothing really that sways me one way or the other with this team, to be frank. So 5-12.
Let me ask you a question, just really quick. Who starts? I'm going to say Fields. Russ. Okay, cool.
Russ.
Okay, do you want to put a drink bet on it? Week 1, who starts?
We keep a tab on our
document.
Yeah, let's put a note tab and we can do it.
Oh, wait, no. I have it. I have one, actually. We've got 2 right now. One drink is I said the Bears make the playoff, and then another drink is the Bills plus 0.5 wins versus Bears. So they have to finish equal or better than the Bears for you to win.
Yes. Yep. And then we also have the Titans one. That being said, sure, week 1 it'll be injury aside, it'll be Russ.
Okay.
That's where I fall. Because if Russ is hurt and can't practice, and obviously it's going to be Justin. Injury aside, it's going to be Russ. Now having a conversation about the outlook of the entire season may be a different conversation, especially if they are as bad as what I think they're going to be. If they're as bad as what I think they're going to be, I think Arthur Smith and Mike Tomlin have the conversation and throw in the towel and say, let's see what we can do for the last 5, 6, 7, 8 games of the season with Justin back there at quarterback. But I think it'll start out as Russ. I mean, Fields didn't show anything in that week 1 preseason game. He looked bad. He fumbled it. It didn't look very good at all. So I'm going Russ. It's just the vet. The vet usually gets the edge over the younger guy anyways.
Next up, Bengals schedule. Do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I'll kick us off. Bengals are going to be a good team. Shocker. Week 1 against the Patriots, they win. Week 2 against the Chiefs, they're going to lose. They usually open up kind of slow. Week 3 against the Commanders, they win. Excuse me. Week 4 against the Panthers, they win. So they start off 3-1. Good for them. Week 5 against the Ravens, they lose. Then they play the Giants, they win. Play the Browns, they win. Play the Eagles, they win. Play the Raiders, they win. Then they play the Ravens again, and they lose. They get swept by the Ravens. I don't know what it is. I think the Ravens are fun. I put like $1 bet on Kyle Hamilton to win Defensive Player of the Year because I could. I just like the Ravens. They're going to be a fun team. Then they play the Chargers. They win. This is bad. I have them playing the Bengals. I have them playing the Steelers. They're going to win that. For some reason, I have that the other way around. They do beat the Steelers. They play the Cowboys and lose. Play the Titans. They win. They play the Browns and lose. And then they finish out winning against the Broncos and Steelers again. I think that puts their overall record. Now that I miscounted, I kind of screwed myself over here. 1, 2, 3, 4. That puts them at 12-5. So right up there with the Eagles. So
this is crazy. Okay, cool. I have them beating the Patriots, losing to the Chiefs, losing to the Commanders, beating the Panthers, losing to the Ravens, beating the Giants, losing to the Browns, losing to the Eagles, beating the Raiders, losing to the Ravens, beating the Chargers, losing to the Steelers, losing to the Cowboys, beating the Titans, losing against the Browns, beating the Broncos, losing to the Steelers, 7-10.
Wow.
Yeah.
They sounded a lot worse when you said it. Now that you said 10-7 Bengals, doesn't sound
no
as
7-10.
Oh, 7-10. Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's wild. So you think the Steelers are going to be a better team than the Bengals this year?
Yeah.
Wow, you are on some takes today. And I'm throwing this out there for anyone who may be new to the show and whatnot. Everything that we say on this podcast is 100% what we believe. We are not saying this because we're disingenuous people. Like Ryan, when he says the Steelers are going to be better than the Bengals, he is full-heartedly saying that in his heart of hearts. Like that's what he believes. He's not just saying that to get a rise out of me or a rise out of the viewers and people to comment. So I do want to throw that out there. So when I said takes, that might have come off wrong.
Yeah.
So I guess you're not as high. Can I ask why?
I just don't like the Bengals this year, man, honestly. I just overall picture at their roster, man, honestly, I don't see it. I don't.
Well,
I could pick it apart if you really want me to, but we
don't have to do that. My big point with it all is they ended up going 9-8 last year with Jake Browning at their quarterback for more
which
than
is
half
crazy.
The season.
Yeah.
And if they can go 9-8 and go above 500 with Jake Browning as their quarterback, I have no doubt that they can do better than that with Joe. And they didn't. Correct me if I'm wrong. Off the top of my head, I can't think of any major pieces that they lost. We'll see where the T. Higgins situation ends up going this year.
Joe Mixon.
Joe Mixon, but he hadn't been.
He's a big name. He's not a big player.
Yeah, exactly. So that was my thought process. They went 9-8, and they're going to do better with Joe than what they did with Jake. But
yeah. So normally at this point in the show, we would play Weddle, but I just loaded it up and it was glitched out, and I had already a couple guesses that were spoiled for me. So I'm just going to make the executive decision and void it this week. Ben is still up on me. It's 43-25. So he would have been approaching 20 even more, I'm sure, for the lead. So, I'm not going to give him any points here, but I will say, probably, hey, congratulations. You probably won again. But nonetheless, guys, thank you for listening to the Pigskin Project this week. Ben, any closing comments?
Yes, that being said, high school and elementary school, middle school started up for those who are in that age range. Good luck for those who are back at school. For my college students like me, good luck next week or in the coming weeks. College is about to start up for me. For me, it's going to be my last year of undergrad, so it's going to be a nice, fun, relaxing year. And just stay tuned with us, guys. Now that the season's right around the corner, it's about time that we really get dialed in. And you guys are going to, again, consistently see the podcast go out live on Wednesday around that 9:30 mark, give or take, 5 minutes on either end of that. And yeah, I hope everyone's excited for the season.
We want to thank Spotify for Podcasters, Regional Radio Sports, and Uppercuts Grooming for helping us grow as a podcast. Thank you again. Please follow us on all of our socials listed down below as well as right above us in order to get your updates accordingly. and then as well as football content. Guys, we're approaching the regular season. It is almost here. If you guys have any content, ideas or questions or stuff that you want us to talk about, let us know by hitting us in the DMs of one of these things, or just comment down below and we will figure it out. Thank you guys very much. And until next week, seriously, we will be here next week. It's been the Pigskin Project.